Okay, here's my case build. Wait, yeah, second and then third. Okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. There are 2 points of reclarification and also setups coming from side opposition. Firstly, the biggest problem under government is that they do not have the fiat to also erase the perpetrators' memories. The motion reads that it is erasing the society's memories, not the criminals. Meaning, when you also try to posit to us that, oh yeah, under your side, these criminals are not going to have any tendencies because they've already been erased also by their memories of like their past crimes. This is exactly wrong and very, very uncharitable. Meaning, opposition is going to be very hard if you try to take these panels. Please don't try to cater this point from side proposition. Then secondly, let's try to give them the best case of like what if it should actually be able to remove and also erase these criminals' memories. They have never explained how in-depth this erasure will actually go. We can also assume that it is only as far as what they are charged with. I.e., like people are charged with like the serial murders or maybe arson or maybe even destroying public things. Meaning, the problem is the fact that each individual have the incentive and also have the capability of doing said crimes. We think that is also already enough to prove to you that the problem is not by the current status quo, but it is the fact that they have a grassroots standings or a grassroots policy inside of themselves that is positing them that they need to do these wronging things. And this is exactly what is needed to be catered from the criminals, not only from like, oh yeah, they're just going to forget the crimes that they did, but not only the reason why they did these crimes at the end of the day. And then see, we think under your side of the house, there is never going to be enough regret or like enough rehabilitation or like redemption coming from your policies, right? Because the status quo, even from the 1800s, already give deterrence in prison that prison is going to ruin your life entirely. That people already know this. It has already been internalized by the society. Like your mother does not want you to do these wronging things because she has fear that you are going to go to prison. But at the very least, it is still going to be comparatively better than like being publicly executed. Therefore, we think prison in itself, even if they have like the prolonging events or like prolonging impacts of you not being able to be catered in the society, is still also part of the incapacitation of prison itself. Therefore, it is justified. And then D, when they talk about small or big crimes being forget or like erased from the people's memories, this is going to be very easy to be flipped, because under your side, because you already erased the small and bigger crimes, we think conflicts and also crimes are still going to be worsened under your side. Why is this? Because there is not going to be enough guilt or deterrence, especially towards these prisons, because at the end of the day, when you do whether small or bigger crimes, you're still going to get these crimes are still going to be forgotten by the society anyway. So why not you do a bigger crime anyway? Because most people do these crimes because they have a grassroots feeling in themselves that they want to do these crimes for themselves. Meaning the satisfaction that you get from doing these crimes is still going to be amplified under side of proposition. Please DPM explain why is this not going to happen. And then secondly, let's talk about the victims itself. There's still a huge hole of backlash when they say that, oh yeah, under their side people can still feel anger, but not towards the perpetrators itself. Who are they going to, the question is like, who are they going to be mad at? We can just simply cater this point so far, i.e., are they going to be mad at themselves? Are they going to be mad at their family? Are they going to be mad at their friends? And this is exactly the question. Like when you take this towards the most extreme case, they can also do this by harming themselves or maybe even committing suicide because they don't know who actually did this to them. Then secondly, the form of acceptance post usage of this technology, they have never actually explained what it's going to look like. Are they just going to forget the fact that they have a mother, and then the fact that this mother is actually non-existent, and they don't ask where she is? And are they just going to realize and ask themselves where they got this stab wound, or maybe even where they got these burn marks from? And this is the exactly reason as to why proposition never give safety net under their mechanization. Therefore, these harms or like these points of safety net is amplified on their side of the house. And then lastly, even if they are still going to be able to protect it, firstly, proposition never explained. And then secondly, even if they did, we think there is still going to be a lot of other ways for you to be able to cater. For instance, like the criminals are still going to be able to do the same things again because you do not have the fiat to actually erase these people's memories at the end of the day, right? Therefore, this is the exact harm that is exclusively happening under your side of the house. And the form of better rehab is going to be actually catered under our side of the house because rehabilitation results are not solely based on whether they forget it or not, because the world already forces you to move on from the many disturbances in your life, i.e. like natural disasters, because the world already forces you to move on, like car crashes or maybe inflation. Like life still goes on, and that's what's been keeping the society intact. Therefore, we are so proud to propose. Therefore, 2 points of simple setups then. Firstly, what is our stance? Our stance is that we are going to portray two main burdens here. A, we are going to allow victims to have their freedom of like accepting and also like trying to portray their emotions of what they've actually built it up after these conflicts, right? Because we think there are already enough safety nets, which I will explain later on. And then secondly, there is going to be a genuine approach on the perpetrators or the criminals, short and maybe even long term, when they are going to be accepted by the society. And then secondly, because it is an assuming and also a policy debate, the things that need to be opted out, I've already said to you, which is going to be like the proposition fiat, which was talking about my rebuttals beforehand, it is already gone down. Therefore, 2 points of extension then. Firstly, on the point of the victims, we think under our side of the house, there is still going to be a better or more genuine healing happening under our side of the house. Because A, it is not going to be dependent on towards a system that has been given by the government. And then secondly, because it is purely coming from inside yourself, it is the most effective and most acknowledging point of like healing, because it is coming from yourself, the person who knows yourself most. Therefore, it's not going to completely based off like, oh yeah, you forgetting something, it means that you are able to cater yourself out of these situations and move on, etc., because that is very, very inexclusive. And then secondly, we think that the invalidated emotions can still be triggered, like just what I've said beforehand on the lack of characterization in government, means that we can also say and ask like, what would happen if these emotional build-ups or these questions come to mind towards these victims which have never been characterized by government. Then secondly, let's talk about the perpetrators' impacts at the end of the day. Firstly, we think the biggest clash is going to be like the acceptance towards society. Both sides are going to have the fiat on talking about A, the behavioral inmates, and B, the non-behavioral inmates. The non-behavioral ones, both sides are going to have bigger faults, because at the end of the day, under your side, you're going to be amplifying these people by society being able to forget about them and not be cautious about them. And when you do not be cautious, they have the more freedom, they have the more legitimacy to do some things that they already want, going back to their villainous days. And this is exactly why it is going to be amplified under your side. Comparatively, under our side, these non-behavioral inmates are still going to get the social pressure in the society, the internalized feeling that everyone coming from prison is still going to be cautiously worried about, because they already have done something wrong and there is no guarantee that these people are going to be able to be rehabilitated anyway. And then secondly, on the point of the behavioral inmates, I think at the end of the day, even if under your side you're still able to cater these people, we think under our side, at the end, these people are going to be accepted by the society anyway. Or even if it takes a longer process, that we think that it is also part of the incapacitating process of prison and also the faults of like the government law itself, meaning it is essentially just going to give a genuine regret on redemption towards these people. Why is this? We think it is not dependent on the technology that only works for one behalf, which is the people or the victims itself, but it is genuinely coming from the criminals. And then secondly, even if your worry was job acceptance, they still need to catch up with like 5 to 20 years after they were locked up, meaning this harm is not exclusive.